Okay. Hey everybody. How's everyone doing? I would like to welcome everybody to another Gingy Beast production for the Gingy Beast Mental Health Awareness YouTube channel. Once again, I'd like to state that I'm trying to create a mental health community channel where people can feel safe to come on YouTube to this channel, express themselves in a non-judgmental platform, tell their story, look for advice, give advice, ask for help, just ask questions in general, share your story. Your story can inspire somebody. You can help someone you don't know. I can help you, you can help me. And as I do my little thing all the time, we all want to help each other. So, and again, nobody likes seeing a growing ginger like that. But that is the point of this YouTube channel, Gingy Beast Mental Health Awareness YouTube channel. I'm trying to create a mental health community channel where we can all feel safe to talk about our mental health issues, look for advice, get advice, just try to help each other and feel free in an open forum. As usual, this YouTube channel is technically being brought as a sponsor. It sounds I like to do this like I'm on a sports network, by Conkuer Clothing. Conkuer Clothing, if you don't know, is a clothing brand that myself and two other partners basically came up with, where we're trying to promote mental health awareness in society. We're trying to make people know that it's okay to talk about your problems, your mental health issues. We have clothing on the back, we have slogans. It's okay not to be okay, break the stigma, be authentically you. These are things we want to get out in the community so people feel open to ask questions like, hey, where did you see that shirt? Where did you get that shirt? Like, our clothing is a loudspeaker. Our clothing promotes mental health awareness, and that's definitely what we're trying to do. And you can get our clothing at www.conkuerclothing.com, Conkuer clothing.com. We do make purchases to mental health facilities we do make donations to mental health facilities through our purchases and my public speaking, which I do hope to get back on track shortly. But I always like to throw this in there, and I understand times have been tough. It's not about the purchasing of the clothing. I mean, that helps us do the donations, but please, at least if you can support us in any manner, go to our Instagram at Conkuer, Conkuer _clothing, promote a post, like go to my Facebook, Geoff Archie on Facebook, promote a post, share a post, repost, whatever post thing you do, make a positive comment. And if you want to make a negative, hey man, the world's a free place. Just try to, anything you do with Conkuer is promoting mental health awareness, and you're helping people like Jordan, Michelle, and myself here get the word out there that it's okay not to be okay, and we want to break the stigma, and we just want people to feel safe in their own skin. Their own skin. So on that note, once again, here we are. I have two guests with me. One is a returning guest, our veteran Jordan over here, and we have our rookie, not really a rookie though, to this kind of topic and stuff like that, Michelle. If you guys either want to, Jordan, you want to go first, introduce yourself again?
Yeah, my name's Jordan. Still kind of figuring out what I'm suffering from, but I know I suffer mental health issues and still working to find out the best way that I can solve them and the best way that I can live my life with them. Michelle.
I'm Michelle. I got a few things. I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict. I suffer from mental health issues that still 100% trying to pinpoint on what it is, but we're getting there. It takes time, so
yes,
don't rush it.
Does. Yeah.
And yeah, so like I'm, as said, alcoholic, addict. I've been clean for just over 3 years now.
Congratulations.
Amazing.
Thank you, and congratulations to you also on your journey.
Yeah, I got myself 5 years under the belt. Feels like it's only been one, but it's 5. But yeah. So yeah, like more or less. So Jordan, I mean, also you are technically the bipolar personality disorder.
Yeah.
What you're trying to figure out and work with.
Yeah.
And myself, PTSD, severe anxiety, severe depression, night terrors. Sometimes I wonder about having bipolar disorder myself, especially when I hear you two have spoken kind of things are clicking a bit. I never know. It might could possibly be something to look into, especially with my mood swings and all. But what we are here for today is I wanted to really touch on, as a previous video I had posted, addiction. I made a video previously about addiction, kind of like more or less a little bit about my journey through it. I might go in a little more in depth today because that's specifically what I want to talk about with you guys and all that, and more or less how addiction can affect your mental health. More or less a bit more on my journey. I know, Michelle, like you said, you had addiction problems, so we'll go through like how yours started, how it progressed, how you realized you needed help, how did you get the help, or did someone tell you, hey, you need to wake the fuck up, like kind of like this guy. So more or less, I wanted to go in through that and have more of an open forum about people. If you have an addiction problem, if you think you have an addiction problem, don't hide it. Look into it, talk to someone, get an opinion, go to your doctor, just take care of it before it progresses to a point where maybe possibly Michelle got to, or where I got to, because it's a scary place. And, it leads to some pretty dark roads, and it's a very slippery slope once you start an addiction and you haven't caught on to it right away. So, I mean, Michelle, if you don't mind, I was going to just get you to kind of like start from your story, like, and Jordan and I jump in I'm probably going to be able to relate with you quite a bit on certain things, especially like we already talked a bit about friendships and stuff. Like,
yeah,
you learn
definitely.
A lot about people. So anyway, I'll let you just kind of like start your course and see where we can go from there.
Start my like basis of my story.
Yeah. The journey to sobriety, more or less.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, I started my drinking career at a very young age. I was like 13 years old.
How old are you now? Sorry, just to jump in, not to put you
26.
on the spot. You're 26?
26.
Okay.
Yeah. 26.
Okay.
So yeah, I started at 13 and I stopped at 23. So I had a solid 10 years of drinking and using in that span. I started at such a young age because I had, I'm a sexual assault survivor as well. So that is a reason why I started at such a young age. I didn't want to deal with or I didn't know how to handle the situation. And the only thing that made me feel better was drinking, because it would numb my emotions.
It masks.
It masks, exactly. It masks and it numbs things, and you don't feel your feelings as much. All you feel is happy and go lucky, and like, screw the world. I can take on anybody and anything at this point, no matter how hammered I was, if I was falling on my face or not. So my drinking started at a very young age because of that, and it continued on heavily for about 10 years.
Was this like independently drinking? Like you were like alone in drinking?
Yes. There was times I was alone in drinking at that age. Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And I was drinking like in high school because vodka was the same color as water.
Yeah.
So,
good mix.
Yeah. Great mix.
It's kind of like cocaine and booze. It's like a Twix bar. It's so good together at the time. Like, yeah. It's a dangerous poison, that Twix bar. But anyway,
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I was drinking constantly at that age because I didn't know what was going on with me, because I was always like a really angry kid on top of everything. Because I felt like I had no control over how I felt all the time. And I didn't know how to express my emotions very well. So I just drank, and then that gave me the confidence to talk and to like meet people and have fun and be this like happy social, and this happy-go-lucky person that like I wanted to be, but I had no idea how to do that because I was shy and I was scared, and I didn't have the guts, or whatever you want to consider it, to walk up to someone and just talk to them and be like, hey, do you want to be friends? Like I do now. But
Yeah.
I couldn't do that before for some reason. I almost had this like mental block that would stop me. And the only thing that would get me out of that was drinking.
Uh-huh.
So I continued my drinking career up until the point I was 23. By then I had gained and lost lots of friends, because nobody could drink like me. I'm this like tiny little 5'5", like at this point in time, 100 pounds soaking wet girl who could be beside someone like you, and I would like drink you under the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at that point in my drinking career, it says it, and so like I got sober through AA, and it was like a big help for me. But like in the big book, it says that like we are mentally and bodily different than the normal drinkers if you're an alcoholic. So
is that them saying more or less that's you're born that way, or is that something you created in yourself as you began to start drinking?
So like there's levels of drinking, right? And
Okay.
like I'm not like speaking for the big book or speaking for AA. All I'm saying is like my experience from it. So there's like kind of levels. You can be like a normal drinker, heavy drinker, this and that, and so on and so forth. But usually it does seem like we are born with it. It is something that they look at it in the big book as a disease, because it's a mental and physical, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry?
Hereditary?
Oh, hereditary.
It can be hereditary, yes, but a lot of the time can be. Like it can come like from families, but there is the odd case that it can come from like, it could come from trauma. It could come from, it can really come from anywhere. And we're not one to judge or to say like, no, you're not one. Or yes, you are. I'd never turn around to somebody and be like, no, you're an alcoholic. I can't do that, because it's only on that person to be able to accept that in themselves.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like it is a mental and physical thing. It's like a mental obsession followed by a physical allergy. So my body reacts differently to alcohol than a normal person does. I drink one, and it's like one is too many and 1,000 is never enough.
Yeah,
so
I would have been the same.
Yeah, so like I'd crave a drink, and a normal person, they crave a drink, they go have that drink, that craving is gone. Me, that second one and third one and fourth one and all the way down the line, I'm craving it 2, 3, 4, 5 times more than I craved the first one.
So were you, just to ask, were you mixing any other drugs at the time?
So as much as I wanted to, I did smoke weed. That was the only drug I've ever done.
Okay.
Because in my own head, knowing that I had a problem, didn't want to do or try anything else, because I knew how addicted I was to booze and to weed.
Yeah.
I
wish I had that train of thought back then. I wish I had your train of thought back then before I started like that kind of thing.
Because I knew that if I got into that, I'd never get myself out.
Yeah.
And I had like these hopes and dreams in my mind that like, you know, I'd either be able to control my drinking. I can't do that now. I just don't drink. But I would be able to control my drinking or deal with it in a positive manner. I knew that it was going to take time, but I knew myself well enough that if I got into something else, I would never dig myself back out of that hole.
Yeah. So, that's the mistake a lot of us don't realize.
Yeah. And that's where I'm very lucky. Like I'm super lucky, and I give myself a pat on the back for that one.
Yeah. And you should.
It wasn't easy.
No.
Because it was always around.
Yeah. Well, everywhere you look. Like,
family. Any family get together, usually there's always some sort of drinking going on. Any kind of friend gathering, there's usually some sort of partying, especially when you're younger.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
I could
Pressure.
use a friend of mine who is still presently an addict who, and this might sound very vicious of me being a former addict, but it's because he's so toxic to my life now that I've had to block him on every level of platform because I've gone above and beyond to try and help him. And he brings me back to those days. But what I'm referring to is that when he would call, like I called in sick to go take him out of a bar a couple of times from work, like at 2 PM, but he would one time he ditched me. Like we're just in reference to alcohol is everywhere. He was at a restaurant and I said, stay the fuck there. I'm coming to get you. And by the time I got there, he was gone. And I said, where the fuck are you? He's like, I just had to leave, but then beers everywhere. I stopped at the beer store because it was right by my house. I had to get it. And he picked up more because alcohol is everywhere. You know what I mean? It's not like you can't just lean on a post and look and there's a store right there, you know, like, so it is everywhere. It's in your face. It's, you know, it depends how you let it be in your face. Of course, that's the difference, right? Like, if you can put the blinders on if you're strong enough, but you have to build your willpower up to that point. So I know what you mean.
The tools to handle it.
You have to build the mindset and the skill set to deal with that kind of stuff, which a lot of people can't do, or just they need the assistance to do it.
And the ability to say no.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely had that issue. But like, you were able to tell yourself you had a problem, or did you have like someone pull you aside and say, hey, guess what? We need to fix you.
Kind of a mixture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like for how I knew that I was never going to be able to do it alone because the few times that I tried, it lasted like a whole 12 hours at most.
Yeah.
You know, being like, I woke up in the morning, like, no, I'm not going to drink tonight. And then it's like, no, I'm out at the bar or I'm out buying booze next, like within 12 hours or so. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do it myself. My sister, her best friend in like high school, she had like 2 best friends. One of them, unfortunately, we've lost and she passed away a few years ago to an overdose.
She passed away to what, sorry?
Overdose. Yeah. She was trying to get clean and sober and some things happened, but unfortunately she passed away a few years ago. She's in a better place now. I know that. But their other friend, her grandfather was in like AA and my family knew about this. So my mom was watching me ruin my life.
Yeah.
Pretty much throwing money out the window to booze all the time, getting myself in extreme debt.
Was your mom aware? Was your mom aware? Sorry, was your mom aware the money was going to that?
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Same. Yeah.
Seeing me miss work or leave work early, and like I have a good job, and like I've been on leave for a little while now because I'm getting my mental health in check. But like I have an amazing job at Costco, and like I'm super lucky to have them. They're super supportive of me and understanding that I'm going on a journey right now to try and get myself better.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
I was like at a chance of losing that job. My family was like scared that they were going to get a phone call that I was going to be dead. Mm-hmm. You know, something along those lines. They were terrified. They were worried for my life. My mom reached out to this man that we knew was in the program, and he gave my mother a number to a young woman who was in the program as well.
Okay.
And I had that number on a sticky note in my room for months before I decided to call her. Well, text her. Because I didn't want to admit that I had a problem. I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Not like, you know, screw you. I don't have a problem. I can stop whenever I want. I'm fine. You know, like I'm being the stubborn, selfish, dishonest, untrustworthy person that I am because I'm in my active addiction. And I ended up getting in a little trouble with law. And then
It happens.
Still didn't stop.
Pardon me?
And then I still didn't stop drinking after that.
Neither did I.
And that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Screw this. Enough is enough. Like, what's the harm in me texting this girl? I text her and I swear she answered me in 0.5 freaking seconds. Like I literally sent the message and it's like she had this paragraph all ready for me or something, being like, oh, I've been waiting to hear from you. How you doing? Great to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, the next day I went out for coffee with her. Well, I drank tea, but besides the point.
Yeah. It wasn't booze at least.
Yeah,
no booze. And then she sat there and she shared her story with me about like, you know, how bad it got, what was going on in her life, how she got sober and how her life is now. And I had this little like fire of envy in myself towards her, but like not in a bad way. In like I want to have that peace, that serenity, that like that all around like amazing love and fulfillment that she has in her life just because she's sober. I saw so much in her that I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
And that day I went and sat with her in that second cup, I decided that I was never going to drink again. And I got into the program of AA and I got a sponsor, actually that woman, because I had I wanted to be like her, and she was young and in the program. She had been working it for years. And I asked her to be my sponsor. We worked through the steps together and I've been sober since that day. So.
Well, that's awesome. I mean,
yeah,
blessed to have somebody like that come in your life too, right?
Oh yeah, like I'm super, super, super grateful for her and all that she taught me. She was so patient and kind with me, because in the beginning, like, you're detoxing. Like that'd been 10 years of me solidly drinking and numbing my feelings.
Did you
know how many feelings came up when I got sober? Oh my gosh.
I can imagine. Well, it's almost the opposite. Almost like when you're drunk and you get over emotional and you start spewing bullshit.
Yeah.
But at least when you're sober, your bullshit makes sense. And it feels good to get it out of your system, and it's not a pity party either.
No, and it's not like you're trying to have a pity party for yourself or anything like that. You're also like me. I was emotionally immature.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that by the time when I was starting to mature emotionally, I cut that off. I stopped myself from feeling those feelings. I stopped myself from learning how to express them.
It's realization.
Yeah.
You don't want to accept the reality of those feelings, like the maturity and what light, it's just if you let those feelings come in, it's a slap in the face of reality that this is life right now.
This is real. Yeah.
And it sucks.
And I didn't even know how to feel my feelings, to the point where I was overwhelmed. Even when someone gave me good news about something, I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, I wouldn't even know how to handle something that was happy. I didn't know how to handle something that was sad, that was depressing, that was anything. And I'm sitting there being overflowed with all these emotions, and I had no idea how to handle them.
It's kind of funny you say that, just because for me, it's this is refreshing to hear this, just because I was the same way, more or less. Especially if something happy happens, to this day, I still struggle really hard. If something really good happens in my life, I'm kind of looking over my shoulder, when's that bad thing coming? Because I'm not used to having good things happen to me. So I'm okay, something bad's good, catastrophic. Someone's going to die soon. You know what I mean? I wasn't used to, I didn't know how to handle happiness either. And especially when I was fucked up, and I didn't know how to handle any emotions, period. Until I did what I was able to get sober, and you get that clarity, the clouds get out of your way, and
fog starts to clear.
I'm doing my little swimming fog. Yeah. But that's the way it is. That's how I found it. I wasn't able to deal rationally with anything until you get sober and you clear the fog is out of your way, right? So it's nice to hear you say that, just because it's something I felt the same way about. Yeah, that's the same kind of thing. But when you were drinking though and stuff like that, we already kind of brought this up. I'm gonna just jump into that heat score. Friends. This has always been a topic I've always it's touchy at the same time. It's still something I like to talk about. But like, how are your friends? Like, so when you're going through the midst of your addiction, and you're going out and drinking, you know now that back then your friends knew you were fucked up. But did any of them pull you aside and literally try hard to say, hey, we got to help you?
No, because I'm going to be brutally honest and throwing a few people under the bus if they see this. And you know what?
Yeah.
Sorry for calling you out on your shit. But they were taking advantage of me because I was nice and I would drive them everywhere. I would pay for everything. I would do everything for them.
Yeah.
And they would look normal drinking beside me. So they'd stick around with me because they didn't want to. They were trying to justify their own self and their own issues by staying with someone who would drink more and have like a blow up or something, you know what I mean? But they were taking advantage of me.
Well, it's like no matter what they do beside you, they don't look like normal. They don't look like the drunk you are.
Exactly.
So it's like that you're on your 17th beer or whatever, and they're on their 12th. And it's like, she's still going, so I'm doing okay. I don't really have that much of a problem. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
She's ahead of me. So it's like,
yeah. And like, I would pay for everything and I would bring everybody out and like, I would do all those things for people. And because of that, people like to take advantage of that.
Well,
being like, oh, she's nice. And like, she's going to buy me drinks all night. Friggin' right. Let's go out with Michelle. Like,
and you're clouded at the time, not realizing any of this is going on.
Not realizing that these people are not my friends.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, it didn't matter what happened to me. They would just go off and do their own thing if things got like rocky or whatever, or I started to fight, or like I was like just drunk and being like, fuck this. And like I'd go on my like drunken adventure by myself to a different bar and start drinking all over again, you know?
So, she's done this before. She's a survivor. Yeah. She's done this before.
She'll be fine. She'll be fine. You know?
Yeah, it's like one thing I said when I got on my other video too. It's like when I got sober, and I've stated this many times, I'm sure people, maybe it's sticking in some people's heads. But anyway, the point of it being, I've always said three things that when I got sober, I noticed. One, your friends won't call you anymore. You'll lose 1,000 friends because you're boring now. You're not much fun. And they haven't even hung out with you yet. But because you don't drink and party, you're just boring. You're done. That's one. Two was people don't want to drink around you and do drugs because they do care to a certain extent, but they don't want you to relapse.
Yeah.
But if they did care, they just wouldn't drink around you and they take you out to places where the shit's not going to be like that. Yeah. Right?
Respect.
Exactly.
Respect.
So, and three,
mutual respect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what it is. And then three, kind of like what you just kind of relating to what we just talked about. Number three would be they don't want you around because they've got a real bad problem. And by you being in front of them sober, they're looking at you going, fuck, this guy got sober and he's reminding me that I've got a real bad addiction problem that I haven't tried to fight and he's doing well. I don't want him around me because he's reminding me of my problem. So those are the three things. True. Those are the three major things.
Right on the ball. But I have to say for myself, I have one friend who stuck by me through it all. She's my best friend. I love her to pieces. She respected my sobriety. She I was after a certain point, I'm okay with being around people who drink as long as it's not ridiculous. You know, you want to have like a beer or like a glass of wine with dinner or something like that. That's fine. She always respected my sobriety and she stuck by me. I'm super lucky to have that. I have that in my best friend and I also had that in my sister. So like I have two people who like in my life stuck by me. If like she saw me at my worst, they both did, and they both stuck by me through my journey to today. And other than that, I had hundreds of friends who just disappeared.
Yeah, well, that's something I've always made a joke about, and to this day I'm happy about it. But like when I was partying, I'm not going to incriminate myself or anything, but when I was partying and my phone's going off every 10 minutes and I'm drinking, and then when I went sober, it was almost like my phone, and the word got out, my phone disconnected. Like I was lucky to get like 3 messages a day, and that'd be my dad checking on me or whatever, right? Because at the worst part of my problems, my mother had passed away, so my father was who was always there for me. That was probably the only. It'd be him or a text message from work if I wanted overtime. That was pretty. I was at that point, because when I was at my worst, I had a lot of friends, and my closest friends were basically just getting into their addiction issues. So they're blinded at the time by their own addictions to realize I'm already far gone to help me, or to realize we should help Geoff, you know. And I've never blamed anybody for my problems. I'll never, ever do that. And you do when you have your pity party.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Because I had a good one for a year. I put my mom through hell. And like, that's why I asked you, did your mom know where the money was going? My mom had no idea. I was on disability too. And my mom, you know, and I'll always have regrets. And my mom always said, you have to learn to forgive yourself. And I'm working on that. But my mother, she was sick with cancer at the time, which makes it me even more of a piece of shit for my behavior. But when I would drive out to stay with her at Kempville after a huge coke binge because I was suicidal on my own apartment, and I mentioned in my last video, I got a balcony 10 feet away from me. That balcony was real accessible if I wanted to jump off it. And I saw my neighbor do that, which was like surreal. So it kind of just implemented, hey, if I want to end all these addiction issues right now, there's a quick fix. So I would go drive out and stay with my mother. And after a coke binge, I'd sit on my bed crying, and my mom would come up at 4 a.m. and be like, you know, but I never had the nerve to tell her why I was in that mode. It was my mental health issues, obviously, but it was also the fact I was poisoning myself with other things to make my mental health worse. I already had diagnosed on me years ago before my addiction. So
trying to get better.
Yeah. So it was just
self-medicate.
Yeah. And I mean, for my friends at the time, most of them were literally falling off the cliff as I already landed at the bottom. So they were blinded. No one was in their right frame of mind to try to help me. So that's basically, and that's why I say I don't blame my friends. I'll never do that.
No.
Certain ones, the ones who dropped off, who stopped calling, those are the best ones I love running into in public. Those are the most fun. Yeah.
Yes. It's great.
Because they'll come up and like I had one guy on Preston. I used to go for walks because I literally went hermit myself. I went hermit for 2 years. Like I went because I had some shit with the law that was pretty serious and it wasn't looking good for me. And thank God it's cleared up. But I would go for walks on Preston because I'm there, Preston Street. And I remember one of the guys who worked in a bar on Preston came running out. He hadn't seen me in a year probably at that point. And he a tiny little guy. He jumped in my arms, whatever. Like I'm 6'2", 300. He was like 5'1", 50 pounds. And he's like, Cardi, I haven't seen you in so long, man. I've got some good shit upstairs. Let's go give it a hoot, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I pulled my earphones out. And I'm like, okay, good to see you. We called him Batman. Anyway, I'm like, okay, good to see you, Batman. You know, like, how you doing? And he's like, you're not going to come up? And I was like, dude, no, man. And I was like, no offense, but I've been sober for like a year and I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not going up there for that. And that was number 3 because of what I said about friends. Because I looked him in the face and he had a tear in his eye. And he was just like, oh, okay, well, it's good to see you. And he went upstairs because he didn't, I think I pulled a nerve on him because I told him I had just gotten sober. He wanted me to go up and party. I said no. And he had a real problem. Like, I mean, this guy stayed at my apartment for 2 days one time. You know what I mean? So his problem obviously was still ongoing. And I kind of made him realize, fuck, the guy that I stayed up with for 48 hours is sober now. I got issues. Okay, bye. I'm going to go mask that problem I just addressed, and I'm going to go get fucked up. Bye, Cardi. See you in another 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's how it goes, like, unfortunately. I mean, I hope he's gotten help, but.
Some people just
hope and pray for him, but.
Yeah. You know, it's right. It sucks. It sucks. And I mean, I've always been an open book for people since I got sober to talk to and stuff like that. But I mean, like when you went to AA, how long were you in that process for?
And was it
you're still in it?
Group or a single meeting, like one-on-one kind of thing?
Sorry?
So it's both. So I have a sponsor that I work with one-on-one,
Okay.
and her and I, like, we work together and we go through the 12 steps.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like, I have sponsees. So like, I'm a sponsor for people. So I help them go through the 12 steps.
Okay. Yeah.
And I go to meetings like in all around Ottawa. Like I try new ones all the time too, because it's amazing and you get to hear people's stories and do that. And with Zoom during this time, like I touched on it on a podcast that I did for
I saw that. I wanted to, you have to text me a link to that. I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, it's on Spotify. It's
Okay,
about
cool.
relationships and recovery.
I don't know anything about relationships, but anyway.
But that's okay. I didn't either, really, and I messed it up a little bit for a while there, but that's okay. I learned a lot, and I'm able to like reflect on that now, and then I can learn from it. But yeah, no, I go to meetings, I do podcasts, and with Zoom and stuff, I've been able to travel all over the world and like hear stories from people in the rooms that I never would have been able to hear from, like people in the States, like, you know, in New York and Florida, in Hawaii, in like everywhere. I've traveled all over through Zoom, which is amazing.
Which I'm still learning how to work. As we found out earlier. But anyway.
No, but it's like it is a kind of like a one-on-one.
Yeah.
You do need to have that. Like you need to have a sponsor and you need to work the 12 steps. And I personally think that like the 12 steps, you can replace the word alcohol with anything. So like I use it in my daily life in like my thinking as well as my alcoholism. Like I am an overthinker. I'm like, you know, I deal with
likewise.
You know, I deal with anxiety. I'm bipolar, but we are not 100% on that. We're not sure if it's ADHD, BPD, if it could be like high anxiety, high depression. Like, you know, I deal with a lot of this on a day-to-day, and I'm able to replace the word alcohol with other things in the 12 steps.
That's something I was going to ask too. Like something I thought I was thinking about, like going, when you go sober, I mean, like, cause for myself, and I'm not trying to say like, whoa, me, I didn't have to do rehab or I didn't have to go to AA. I'm just saying myself, it was like, I literally, you know, almost ended my life at one point. And it was like either man up or just end it now. So make your a bit of a dramatic two choices, but it's like
a little bit, but that's okay.
But that's what made me change. And I mean, also hearing my mother's voice, because my mother never drank, and it used to drive me nuts when I'd wake up on Saturday morning when I was like 18, and my mom would see me all hungover, and she'd be like, "I don't understand why you have to drink to have a good time." I'm like, "Mom, you never drank. You don't understand." You know what I mean? Like, and it was a social thing, obviously, but I would hear my mom's voice all the time. She never understood why people drank. She never drank, and she didn't do drugs. So I always heard her voice. And for me, it was just, I woke up and I said, look, you're in legal issues. You're on disability. You just lost your mother. I mean, I've lost tons of people in my life. And it's just like, do you want to live this miserable for the rest of your life, or do you want to fix this shit? And it was like, the reason why I drank was because, and it's weird how you can get in the cycle, because like you, I masked I put a mask on. I had some abuse as a kid. And from an evil man my mother unfortunately had dated. And then as life progressed, he affected me. To this day, he still affects me. I still dream about the shit he did to me. And I dream about all the losses and things. I've witnessed some pretty traumatic things in my personal life. So I would drink and do drugs to put the mask on. And I used to think it would numb my dreams. I would think the more I drank, the more I did blow, the more I wouldn't have the dreams, which is a fucking lie.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Fuck you, cocaine and booze, you fucking liars. You didn't do shit. But anyway, it was just like that cycle. And this is why I said in my other video too, I know I'm repeating myself, but I was kind of saying to Jordan before you got on, I worked at a homeless shelter for like a long time with addicts, mental health, alcoholics, And a shelter is like a galaxy of trouble. You know what I mean? Like I used to call it Star Wars because you saw everything there. Like I've seen shit in the homeless shelter I know I won't see ever again unless I work in one again. And I'm not making fun. It's just how it is. It's if you don't work in that environment, you'll never see it, or unless you live it. It's a scary world. It's a jail. It's a max prison with no bars. It's crazy. So I would sit and watch these guys. Yeah, and I would watch these guys, and I'd sit back and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I'll never be like that. How could anyone become this? It'll never happen. I'll never." It was like I was happy to be there because it reminded me I'll never become an addict ever. And like I said in my other video, fuck man, it can happen to anybody.
It can.
I watched these guys,
and you know what? It does not judge on sex, on race, on age, on religion, on anything.
No,
it can affect everyone and anyone.
Yeah,
and that's where there's like this big stigma of like people who are, oh, you're not an alcoholic unless you're like you're homeless, living under a bridge, drinking from a paper bag. You know that like.
I call that the basic mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what everybody thinks is an alcoholic. No, I was 23 years old, literally about to lose everything in my life, including my life. And I was about to just give up on everything. And I said, you know what? Fuck it. What is the harm in going to a goddamn AA meeting?
Yeah.
So I met with this girl and then I started doing the program. And that's the other thing that's about the 12 steps. You learn a lot about yourself in it.
I'm sure
it really helps. That was one big thing about me that I'd like, when you have baggage and you have stuff that you're carrying for so long on your back, you're carrying it for years and years and years, and it's just getting heavier and heavier and heavier. A portion in the steps that I did with my sponsor, and I've done it multiple times because it's never linear. It's always in a circular motion. You always go back and you do work again. I let go of that baggage that I had on my back that I've been carrying for years.
That's like, well, this is like, and doing this with you guys to me is like therapy for myself because I'm learning.
Exactly.
I learned from Jordan and his issues. I learned from you, and for me, it's like I'm also expressing things I never did before because my mom and my dad helped too. My parents were divorced when I was like I just say when I was born because I don't have any memory of them together, but they both did what they could, and like. I mean, since I was 12, I've been seeing psychologists, therapists, psychiatrists, all that jazz. But until you find a good one, you're fucked. And I did find a good one. I always make the joke. I got locked up in the basement of a hospital, and it was like, I always say that my only comparison is like I took the red pill, and I woke up in this fucking white room with a camera in the corner and a door with a slot for a sandwich and a white bed. And that really sucked. But the good thing that came out of it is I met the best psychiatrist I ever had there. And he took me on as a client. Unfortunately, he's retired now. I had him for 5 years. I have a new one who he looks like the master dwarf off Lord of the Rings, and he doesn't do much. Like, it sucks because of COVID right now, because I used to see my psych every 2 weeks, and it felt good to unload. Now I hear that I have a phone call once an hour every 2 months if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
So I was going to relate this question to you, Michelle, or Jordan at this time too. It's like, because I know, like Jordan, you were saying earlier, you use marijuana to cope with issues in a healthy way.
Yeah.
More or less.
Sometimes in a negative way, but mostly for health standpoint and in terms of like eating and just kind of like I got to deal a lot with like negative thoughts and like my mind wanders a lot. Like if it starts with like thinking about growing grass, it could be next thing is death. Next thing is my mom, something just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. So this is kind of like, again, to self-medicate. It's not really helping me. It's kind of like just, again, numbing everything for now.
A calming effect.
Yeah. So it's like, I got a lot of high anxiety too. It's mostly childhood stuff as well as like mostly recent, as a couple of recent things as well, like car accidents and just stuff like that. Is I actually, because I have my PTSD from my car accidents like a while ago. I got in another one. So that probably, a little bumper underbender, but
Probably, yeah,
same
but it
thing.
still triggers things,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that night I just didn't sleep. I was sweating. I just couldn't sleep. And next day I was like, you know what? You need to shake it off. You need to not man up. It's just kind of like it
Yeah,
happened.
I use that term more or less as a punch in the face.
Not like,
but
you just need to. It happened to you. It
accept
affected
it.
you. Let it go.
Yeah, I hear you, and that's something. I mean, that's one of my. I'm like, well, Jimmy would always say about me is that I'm the biggest. I don't forget shit. Anything anyone's ever done to me, I don't forget. I mean, I'm talking like I can go back like 12 years working in a bar where a guy talks shit to me at the front door. You know what I mean? I'll see him on the street and I'll be able to go, there's that motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
I remember shit. So it's like,
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
yeah, I don't forget anything. It's like
No.
I'm trying to work on forgiving the man who did some really fucked up shit to me when I was young. And I'm getting there, but it's just brutal how I kind of look at it. And I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But I looked at my addiction too, like with cocaine and booze, how I was using that to combat him because I didn't want to dream about him. And I didn't want my thoughts on him. But then when I got sober, I was like, what I was actually doing was feeding him.
Yeah.
I was just feeding him because all I was doing was hurting myself more and more, which is what he did to me in my childhood. You know what I mean? So it was so like you realize a lot when you get sober, like things like that, you know. And I mean, for like Michelle, I mean, especially for you with the drinking, especially for that length of time, what did you do to fill the voids? Because I'll tell you, when you take the cocaine out of the party and you take the booze, what the fuck am I going to do now? You know what I mean?
What do I do with myself? Like, why do I, you know what?
Like hobbies and activities. Like hobbies and activities, like, I mean, it sounds corny and cheesy to say those words, but that's what you have to find. You have to find other methods to fill the hole of what booze occupied.
So one big thing that I did in the beginning that actually did help me a lot is I sat and felt my feelings. I literally just sat there and felt everything that was going on. I felt all my feelings. Yeah. And that was okay to feel that. And trying to remind myself, I even have to remind myself to this day, like that it is okay to have feelings. It's okay to have days that bothered you more than others. Yesterday was a rough day for me. Yeah. For some godforsaken reason, I figured out what it was later on in the day, but I had I was overwhelmed with emotions in the morning and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then as soon as I figured out, I stopped and I really felt my feelings. I was like, why do I feel like this? I got to the root of it and then I figured out exactly why I was feeling that way.
Yeah. So
that was a big thing for me in the beginning, was feeling my feelings. I didn't want to overpower myself and do too much.
Yeah.
But I'm a big reader. Like, I love books. So
yeah, I'm like that too. I have a lot, especially I'm a history nerd. So
yeah, so like there's a lot of literature in AA that I wanted to read, and it's super interesting because like it gives you like intense and extreme details upon like how it started, why it started, and like, you know, the doctors and the physicians and everybody that was a part of making AA possible. So I would read a lot about that. I also read like fiction, nonfiction, anything that I think that I had like a little bit of an interest in. I paint, I draw. After a year of being sober, I got my dog. I've worked with animals for a long time as well. So
you worked at that shop.
The dog groomers, Underdog.
Yeah.
But Sophia, the owner, actually taught me how to do grooming. But yeah, this little guy right here, not so little, but this man, he is a big part of my recovery and my life.
That would be the same as my two cats and my hamster Floki. But anyway.
Yeah.
Feel like animals are.
Without him, I wouldn't be even though I'm very much not okay 90% of the time. He makes it all okay. He knows when I need him, and I know when he needs me, and it's like he is my life. Without him, I probably wouldn't be here right now because of all the, on top of dealing with alcoholism, I have a lot of mental health issues that I try to deal with on a day-to-day too. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. And I don't know what to do anymore. So I'll just lay down on my bed and my 90-pound dog comes and curls right up on my chest, cuddles right up with me, and it makes everything better.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's what I mean. My two cats, especially my one in particular, he's been there to see the whole. I'm sure he could, if he could talk English. I understand his meowing now because I learned how to talk cat for 2 years when I went hermit. But if he could talk the stories, he could probably tell that he witnessed me and people around me and stuff like that in my place. Like my one cat's been through hell and back with me, and I don't want to talk about that, but it terrifies me when the day he's not in my life anymore because he's been such a rock. He replaced that cat. My one cat replaced about 50 friends. You know what I mean? Like he was there for me, and I mean it's, you know, I'm sure my neighbors in my apartment have heard me have several in-depth conversations with him. So, or both of my cats or my hamster for that matter. But animals play a big role in recovery, and I mean, it's a fact. Were you ever like before you had that number to call for that lady that turned your book, wrote the new chapter for you, helped you write the new chapter? Did anyone ever though? Like, I mean, I'm not repeating the question, but like, if anyone did bring any help up to you, were you resistant to it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Because I was like, no, I don't need help.
Yeah.
Why do I need help? I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm in my 20s. I'm like 22, 21. Like, why can't I party? Why can't I have a good time? Everybody else is having a good time.
Yeah. See, and that's,
I'm young to live.
Yeah. Well, you're at that age, right? I mean, well, I see that my thing was like, cause I'm not going to state my age right now, but I'm older than you. But like I was always able to drink, smoke weed. I was copacetic all the way up until, and like I've said this before again, I don't blame her, but I started dating a girl who was a weekend warrior, right? And at that time I had never really done hard drugs, but then I started partaking with her, and it goes from weekend to weekend to weekend to Monday to Wednesday to Friday to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
You move the line of where the problem will be.
Yeah, like it just dating her. And then when she broke up with me, you know, and my mother had died like within that same month, everything, all the drug use and booze collided together even more so. And like I said, like I was on disability. I'd sit here and rip an 8-ball and then have my Jameson, and I'd just be sitting there. When am I going to get that text to go out? Right. Like just waiting for that person at 7:00, you know, to go out. And like I said,
I went out by myself.
Yeah. See, and I would do that too. I remember my friend who, you know, I'm not really trying to put him on the spot, but a person who I had to block, and because he's just too toxic for me. Like I've literally spent 3 hours in my car more than once because I don't like holding a phone to my ear. I find it annoying. So I talk in my car most of the time. So he would call me once a month crying, blaming everybody in the world for his issues. And I would sit in Walmart parking lots just talking to him the whole time. I mean, I brought him to like I've done everything I could for him. He was just too toxic. But I can remember when you're talking about how people use you for things, at one point with this person, he knew I would always have it. I was super accessible. So one specific time, and I'm talking like, I don't need to name the amount, but it was a lot. And we went out, did it all in my car. We sat in my car for 2 hours and just snorted. And then when it was all gone, I just remember he looked at me, he's like, hey man, where's the rest of it? And I was like, dude, we did it. It's gone. Okay, well, I'm going home. Gotta go. What? You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you gotta go? He's like, I gotta go home. And he just got out of my car, got in his car, and left. So I'm sitting there beyond Pablo Escobar at this point, and I'm like, my anxiety is like like I'm alone like this. This is not fun, man. Yeah, like this is not a good time. Like I'm just looking for where do I go, you know, like so I went to the Heart and Crown on Preston and I sat there for like 3 more hours and boozed my face off by myself while this friend used me for 2 hours of a pump and he just left me there. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, learning who your friends are. And what's sad again to this day is that he's got major problems and people call me randomly and be like, oh, I saw so-and-so. Yeah. And I'm sure he was fucked up, right? Oh yeah. Talking about you, why you won't help him. And you're just sitting there and you're just like, he was so toxic to my life, bringing me back to where I was. I couldn't afford to jeopardize my mental health again to help him anymore. And I that's why I have him blocked on every platform, number. I hear from him sporadically through friends, how he complains to people, how Geoff claims to know mental health. No, he doesn't. No, I actually know mental health enough to know you will destroy mine if I risk going back to try and help you again.
Yeah.
How painful it is, because I do love the guy, but I can't risk my life again. You know?
No. And so, you know what? That's one thing that's like, that my sponsor, when I first got into sobriety, she drilled it into my brain, and like it is so true. My sobriety and my like well-being and mental health is above all else in my life.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that's hard. Like, you know, it hurts for me to say, like, my sobriety is above my dog and I love my dog with all my heart. Like, I will get him food before I would buy myself food. You know what I mean? Yeah. But without your sobriety and without your mental capacity and your mental health and having everything in check, without any of that, you don't have a life and you can't help anybody else.
No. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm sure Jordan, you can attest to that.
Hard truth.
Yeah. Can't help yourself or you can't help anybody else if you don't help yourself first.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean,
and it's not being selfish.
No.
You're doing what you need to do to be the better person, self-love, so you can love other people and help them through their journey.
It's not selfish because you're realizing that you're only going to be a poison to them if you can't even take care of yourself. Why would, you know, and that's like
one of the most selfish things you can do. Just you're thinking about other people and you know you're going to affect them. So why bother putting yourself and other people through that? There's no.
Or you could, and you could end up like being more toxic to them than you. Yeah. You don't even mean to be toxic, but you are. Yeah. And
you could lead them down the path that you're on. Yeah,
it's not a pleasant little the way you look at it. It can be a vicious cycle the way it goes. Yeah. And that's the thing that people are like always ask, like, how did you get like that? And it's just, I remember like I mentioned the homeless guys. It's like kind of you wake up. I would go out till about 5 or 6 in the morning because I always had people that would be there to do that. And you get home, maybe get home and you pass out. I would abuse my medications, like my clonazepam, my lorazepam, all my downer meds, anti-anxiety, because when you're high on blow, those things help bring you back down. So I'd probably get home around between 6 or 8 in the morning, wait for those meds to kick in. I pass out probably 11 a.m., wake up at 3 p.m. And again, like I said prior, it's like that little moment of sobriety is what keeps you on that cycle, because that 5 minutes, you could say 2 minutes, that 2 to 5 minutes where you wake up and you're like, whoa, I did a shit ton of drugs last night. I have anxiety through the roof. This is so bad. I want to kill myself. Like, I can't handle this. Oh shit, there's the blow. All right, back on track. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you create that cycle, because you can't deal with reality in that 5 minutes of sobriety. You continue to use. Like, I'm sure it would be the same for you with the drinking. You would wake up, probably, I'm not guessing, I'm just saying, possibly struggle, and then I need that first drink to calm me back into that zone. And that's how that cycle just keeps going around. It wheels on the bus, right? Like,
I'd wake up and I'd be hungover. Oh, what fixes a hangover? Another drink.
Keep drinking.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
It's
and then I would just continue down the rabbit hole and just go farther and farther down every single night. And it got to a point where I hit my rock bottom and I was like, enough is a freaking enough. Michelle, like, get some fucking help and get your life together, because like I deal with suicidal ideations a lot as well on top of everything. And like for myself, I can't do that. Like my logical mind and my mental health mind, they fight each other all the time.
Yeah, I'm
Because
the
like
same. Yeah.
I am an intelligent person, so like I understand the difference between the two of them.
Mm.
So when I'm fighting myself and like I know that that's not the answer, it's always tough. So like right at that time, I was like, hey, I know this is not the answer. I can't like, I can't end my life. Like I'm not gonna do that. I need to get some freaking help. I need to do something about this. And like, what's the harm? Like
Were you on medications at all at any point for any of this? Like in regards
I
to
taking
I
started taking meds about a year in.
Okay.
For like anxiety and depression, but then they weren't helping, and like it was just getting to be too much, and I was overwhelmed, and I had like a panic attack at work, and it was just not good. So I ended up going on leave. I got an assessment done, and they like diagnosed me with something which wasn't exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So a year later, I'm getting frustrated because I'm putting in all this work and all this effort into like getting better and dealing with my mental health. But like the medications weren't helping. The therapy, the way that we were going, wasn't helping either. I was getting frustrated and annoyed. So then I got another assessment done like about 3 months ago or so. And that's when they diagnosed me with bipolar. And I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Yeah. But like, why is it not this or why is it not that? And my doctor thinks that it could be that as well as something else. So it's like I'm still on this track of like figuring exactly what it is out.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating because I'm someone who's like, hey, I want to figure this out now. I want to get this done so like I can get back to my normal life.
Yeah.
But I also have to remind myself that things take time. Like it's not like as soon as the day I got sober, like everything was fine and everything is dandy. No, it was shit for a while.
Yeah, it's not a quick fix.
And I need to realize that like I have to stop being so hard on myself with things and realizing that it's okay to take time to fix me and to be better for myself and for all the people in my life who deserve a better me. Like my niece and my soon to be nephew will never see me drink. They'll never see that side of me, which like I'm so grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
just amazing feeling knowing that.
Yeah. Do you find like more like, I mean, Jordan, you too, like you find like, well, not specifically just this, but like talking about everything like I've always tried to compare my issues. Like, how did I feel better? What therapy was good for me? When I finally learned to talk about things, or was medication more beneficial? I always try to compare which was more beneficial to me. And personally, I've weaned myself off medication. I mean, don't trust me. I got bottles of clonazepam for emergency purposes. If ever that balcony calls my name again, I'm running in there for my clonazepam. But like, I've been good at being, I was on Seroquel, lorazepam, clonazepam, Ativan, but like Remron. I was on at one point 7 to 8 meds at one point, and my mom had to like bring me to the hospital and ream out this really shitty pill dispensing psychiatrist, get him off these meds, like half of them at least, So I learned how to wean myself off, and I fight my struggles still. I mean, there's not a morning, I mean, like 4 or 5 times a week, I want to pop a clonazepam, but I try to mentally talk myself out of it. But like, I'm just saying, both of you, did you find like medication over talking? Like what kind of therapy do you think works best for you? Or a combination of both, as long as it's healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, for me, it's mostly just like opening up, and like I'm more like I've always been someone to figure out my own thing, or like not what's wrong with me, but if there's something wrong, I'm gonna fix it and I'm gonna figure out how to do it. Like I don't want outside help, which is probably to a detriment at some point.
Sometimes, yeah.
But at the same time, I've found out more about myself in the last year and more about my relationship and what I can do and the things that I can actually accomplish and what I actually need and don't need in my life and the things that I can actually tell people. Because I was always like, my other like addiction was people pleasing. Like my huge thing was I grew up in a home where there was a lot of fighting. My mom and dad would always fight. They ended up getting divorced when I was super young. Me and my sister would always fight. Like the last thing I wanted to do for anybody in a social setting was to set anybody off or do anything.
Yeah.
So I did anything and anything possible that I could to please people, whether it was becoming the joke of the party, whether it was becoming like the star of the party or whatever whatever have you, it was, I needed to be that.
And so, you're not taking care of yourself in the background.
No, exactly. I'm drinking a 40 bottle of Jaeger just cause.
Yeah.
I'm drinking, I'm smoking a big bag of weed. I'm smoking an ounce of weed a night because, there's nothing else to do and I can. Like,
yeah,
it's
and just
talking yourself out of the things and opening up about the things that you're feeling inside and the things that you want to actually get off your chest and actually want to come to fruition about getting better and not dealing with the things that you're constantly dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, it's always about numbing, right? Like that's,
yeah.
I mean, like, I wouldn't say all addiction comes from trying to numb things. Some people just, I would assume, just from going out regularly and partying, it just becomes that habit, right? It doesn't, they probably could have lived the most perfect life in the world. I mean, I see that at my jail where I'm a caseworker. It's like, so everyone's always like, oh, those inmates, those kids must have come from such horrible lives. Yeah, some of them. But we also got the guys who watched a 50 Cent video and thought it'd be cool to go get a gun and be a gangster. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like with drinking. It's like you have those people who become alcoholics just because they live the perfect life, but they just are in that setting too much. Mm-hmm. And it just becomes habitual. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny how it happens on different levels, how it can become what it is. And I mean, everybody has a life story. Everyone has a story, right? It just depends how you write it and how you write the next page and you start your next chapter. And I mean,
it's all about the next chapter. It's not about the previous one. You can't look back on your until it's finally written.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm thankful.
But you can learn from the previous chapters.
Yeah, you can for sure.
They are there for a reason, but you can't hold them and dwell on them. You can take them and make it a learning experience and make the next chapter better.
And as my mother would always say, you have to learn to forgive yourself for your past, which is something that's something I struggle with very much so for a lot of shit I've done. But I mean, like I said, it's a work in progress. It's like you said, it takes time to be able to do these things, right? So you have to,
and like in AA, like I was lucky that it is a spiritual program. So like having a like higher power or like believing in God or whatever it is that you believe in, like that was one big thing that helped me as well. Like I'm very spiritual and like I've gone on like, retreats with shamans and like all that fun stuff. And it was,
I've heard a lot about that stuff. I mean, I know my friend that there, he's done that quite a bit.
Yeah. Like, and you know what? It's heart opening and like, it just, like that is where a lot of my struggles now go to, like things that I feel like I can't handle and I can't deal with on my own. I can like hand it over and just be like, I can't hold on to this and like it's hurting me. So like, here you go.
Pass it over.
Yeah, like you just pass it over and you just give it to them. And whenever you are strong enough to deal with it, that's when it comes back. And if you can't, then you just pass it back over again. So
well, that's like when I would go, my mother had a lady set up to talk to me, and I would make up any excuse in the book not to go see this lady, and it was brutal. I'd go sit there and she'd just look at me and be like, "You don't want to be here, do you?" Nope. And then finally, I'd say after about 2 months of my mother literally forcing me to go talk to her, I started, because basically what I was doing was just, you don't want to, like you said, by passing things over, it's just, you're just not addressing things. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same way, almost.
In some ways, like this is more like for me, if I'm having a really hard time getting over something, like let's say like a breakup or like, someone, let's just say someone was a complete rude bitch to me at the store. Okay. And I'm holding on to that, and I hold on to that inside. And I'm just like, she was so mean. She was so rude. She said nasty things to me, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I'm holding on to that, and I'm keeping that inside, and I'm letting that build and build and build and build. So instead of letting that consume my thoughts and consume who I am that day, I take it. I'm like, okay, this woman was a bitch, and I did not appreciate anything that she said. She had something stuck so far up her hoo-ha that like, you know, she was having trouble pulling it out, and she took it out on me. Good for her. Okay. She's sick. I can't change her. I can change how I look at this, and I'm giving this over. I'm giving it away because I can't,
that.
You know, like you address it.
No, I get that.
Still, like, you know, you're not letting your mind consume the entire day over it instead of holding on to something that you can't change. Bye-bye.
I'm that guy.
Gave me this shit. Now take it back. I don't want
it. No, I understand what you're saying now. That's completely different. I get what you're saying. I
address everything that is given to me. Like, I've had some people say some nasty things to me.
Yeah.
And every time it happens, I just take it. I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry that you feel that way. You know, if there's anything that I can do to make it better, you'll let me know. But I'm not going to let that ruin my entire day just because maybe somebody, and like, I wouldn't look at someone and be like, you're an asshole for saying that. I look at you and I'd be like, okay, maybe you're sick and you need some help, and you're just taking it out on me.
Yeah.
So I'll be your backboard for a little bit, and then I give it away. So I don't I don't hold on to it and potentially drink or use over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. Makes a lot of sense.
My biggest thing for that too is I just kind of like, just to release it kind of thing and make sure I do. It's just kind of saying like, hope you have a better day. Like, that's like it's the smallest thing that you can do, but it's like, sorry you're having a shit day. Hope you have a better day, man. Like, whatever's bothering you to the extent of what you're coming at me right now is not.
Yeah, I got something like that not too long ago. What was it? And I mean, I get this everywhere I go. I get judged, but like, I've learned to turn it into a comical experience more than anything. You know, I have ignorant people come to me all the time about steroids and stuff like that because I've been working out for 29 years. Okay. Like, this is what I've learned. What Bennett, like, I was put into a facility as a kid to fix squash rackets because of my bad behavior through school. And I got a free gym membership out of that. I've never stopped. And throughout my struggles, like today, after this, I'm going to the gym, and then I'm doing overtime at the jail. But like, I get ignorant people all the time. And it's funny, I've learned comments about steroids and blah, blah, blah. And I've learned how to, instead of what I've done several times in my past, where I've kind of maybe popped somebody's nose like a tomato, I've learned how to address it in a much more pleasant way. Like, smile and nod and say, I'm sorry you're so lazy that you can't go to the gym. But you know what I mean? Like, I've learned how to flip it. But it's just funny because I had somebody write me on Instagram. It was I'm very blessed, and I shouldn't bring this up because I'll probably get some people to hate on me now for it, for the fun of it. But since I started Conkuer, I've had maybe 3 or 4 people completely bash the shit out of me for it. Whatever, that's your opinion. You know, I've learned that because usually I'd be like, I'll meet me at the quickie, motherfucker, and I'll teach you what Conkuer's all about. You know, like, now it's more like I write a polite response and say, you know what, maybe you have some mental health issues because you're displaying all your anger on me. You know what I mean? Like, but like, I had a guy write me the other day on Instagram. Oh my God. It was like this big, a comment this big under a picture of me. It was like, you bleep, 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 piece of bleep, 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 think you're helping people, you big bleep, bleep, bleep. You're nothing but a bleep, 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 juice monster, bleep, bleep, bleep. You know nothing about mental health. Like, buddy, this guy went on. So I was like, and it hit me because, you know, and I'm not trying to sound cheesy, but like, Conkuer is my world. Like, I'm trying to do something here, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to bleed my heart out here and say I'm trying to save the world. I am trying to make it because I know what it's like to be the guy with his own gun in his mouth, ready to blow my head off. I've been that guy.
You're trying to spread awareness that it can affect anybody.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, like,
and it does.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the point. And it's like, I mean, my whole working professional career has been helping other people. I'm not saying I'm a saint. I am far from a fucking saint, but I've worked helping homeless people. I'm a caseworker with mental health inmates. You know what I mean? So it's like when I get this idiot who just looked at my picture and said, you know what? Fuck this goof. I'm going to friggin', you know what I mean? So I replied with, I had to like sit and like, woosah, okay. How do we respond in a positive way to this bastard? So I was just like, you know what, dude? I'm sorry you have to look at me and judge me in such a way when you don't even know me beyond my physique. So I just wrote, look, man, I hope you have a nice day. I hope you get over this anger of I don't know what looking at me did to spark this issue with you, but you don't know me and you don't know what I've been through. So you cannot actually come at me like that. Thank you. Goodbye. Block. You know what I mean? Like I've learned how to, Sobriety's helped me be that way though.
Of course, but the thing is judgment and being judged on your outer appearance is always going to happen nowadays.
Oh,
and
hell yeah.
It's so like it really bothers me because like, okay, I'm a young woman, I'm covered in tattoos, I've got like a 90-pound dog who like we'll go to the dog park together and people will pull their children away. They'll like pull their small dogs away from my dog and I'm sitting here like he's probably friendlier than your dog. And I get judged because like I'm covered in tattoos and people will look at me and look me up and down and like scoot away faster and I'm like I'm nice. Okay? Like I'm nice. I'm nicer than some of the people that don't have tattoos. Like
well, I mean that's the same. I mean, like I'm 6'2", 315 pounds covered in tattoos. It's like, and by all means, I've had tons of friends do lots of time in prison. So and I love those guys to this day. Some of them are my most solid friends. And it's more like people see me on the street though, and they're like, are you sure you work in a jail or you just got out of jail? You know what I mean? That's what I get. You know what I mean? But like, just in reference to sobriety, if that was like 5 to 6 years ago, and that's when I did what I would do, I would react violently. I learned through being sober, and like I said, the clouds disperse. You learn how to rationalize your feelings better instead of me just going, well, fuck you, hang on 1 second. Okay, what the fuck did you say, motherfucker? You know what I mean? Like, now it's like, you know what? I've been probably where this guy's been, or he's where I'm at 7 or 8 years ago. So you know what? I'm going to brush this guy off because he's got to learn more about himself and learn what he's doing isn't right and learn to deal with what's inside of him that's making him do this. And by all means, by me saying that, I do not pretend I am like not still that person. I deal with it not to be that person. And I'm better at not being that person. And being sober and getting over all my addictions has made me that better person. And I'm not saying too, that's another thing I always like to address. If you can go out there, and like a lot of my friends still do, I can go out now and I can go to any party. You could put a pound of blow in front of me. I have no interest in that. You could put a bottle of Jameson in front of me and, you know, it doesn't bother me. I can go anywhere now. I know they say don't say never, but in my heart, there's no relapse in me ever again. And like some of these people that can go out and party and drink and function in society, live a happy mental health, like their mental health is in check. They can support their family. They can be happy. They live a happy life. If they can drink and do all that, I applaud them for it because I could not. That was my issue, obviously, and you could not either. So for those people, I'm not saying we're better by going sober. We needed to go sober. Like, Michelle, you needed to recover. You needed to get sober. I needed to get sober. Luckily, fortunately, Jordan, you haven't hit that point, and hopefully you never ever do in your life. I know you're a smart enough guy. I don't think you ever will. You know what I mean? Like your weed and all that, like medical marijuana and all that keeps a lot of people in check. And
you know what? If you're using it for specific reasons and you're self-medicating, you know, you're using it to like help with certain things and it's allowing you to not be taking other medications as long as you're sticking with that regimen of like, you know, you have certain amounts, certain time, certain day, kind of like medication. That's self-medicating with a natural product that like, maybe affects your mind a little bit, but if you're using it in a positive way and not abusing it, that's great for you to be able to do that for yourself.
Like I have a drawer
Like I
over
couldn't
here.
do that myself. I wouldn't be able to hold that line of like, where is okay and where is not.
Yeah.
Because if I started that, then I'd end up down a cycle of being like, I can handle this. Oh, look at me go. I've been able to use weed responsibly for a year. Maybe I can drink, and that'll just send me down my rabbit hole again. I know that about myself, but like, if you can use it and you can use it self-medically wise, like
if you can use it and stay healthy and function. If you're a functioning member of society, who gives a shit? That's my point. Exactly. I could not. So that's why I had to go sober. I'd be dead or in jail, one or the other. So
that is the same kind of as Michelle, like figuring out you kind of had a problem and needing to get it fixed before you even realized it was a big problem. And mine was drinking. It was like
kudos to you for that.
Drinking in high school was because it was the peer pressure of fitting in, the peer pressure of not knowing who you are. Like I'm a mixed kid. Like I was born with a black parent and a white mother. Like, so identity is kind of like, who are you? Where are you?
That adds to your mental stress.
What are you supposed to be doing? How are you supposed to act? What are you supposed to be like? Like there's a lot of like high school stuff that a lot of people don't know about and a lot of people didn't know about. And that's why whenever I was at a party, I was either the first one passed out or the first one to finish their bottle.
Yeah, I'd be the first one to finish the bottle. Because I had this to keep going.
I just usually had another bottle somewhere else.
Yeah, ready for after
a couple of them hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
People would look at me and I'm a small person now. Like I've gained weight and I'm like happier now about like my size.
You've gained weight, Michelle? Really?
Yes, I did. Like I'm like not 100 pounds soaking wet anymore.
You fucking beefcake. Wow.
I know, right? No, but when I was drinking, like when I stopped drinking, I was like 80 something pounds.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I believe it.
Like I didn't eat. Like it didn't matter. Like all that I did was drink. And like I was literally like a skin and bones and a twig. And I look at myself now and like I look at pictures back then and I'm just like, like what did I let myself get to, But I didn't see that in the mirror when I was looking at myself. When I was drinking, I was like, oh, I'm fine. But I look back on pictures and I'm like, oof, okay, yuck. Yeah, like it was getting bad here and like that was at my worst. And
I think the gym was my only, like I didn't lose any weight. I didn't really gain weight, but I didn't lose any weight. But the gym was always probably my, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I teeter-tottered all the time, but the gym would keep it at a lower, steady rock. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I didn't lose much weight because I kept going. Point. Yeah, and I knew I still had to go. I mean, like the longest I stayed away from the gym in my life, in 29 years of training, my fiance, when that all happened, and I had a hernia, which I didn't listen. I went to the gym 2 weeks after surgery. But those are like the longest periods of time I stayed away from the gym, and that was it. But it kept me in check. I had, I know Jordan, you got to get going there soon, but like two more random questions.
Yeah.
One, this one will be a little comical. So you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I had a great conversation the first time, I'll just lead up to it. I was going on my first date with a girl sober. This is my first sober date. And all I was used to doing on dates was getting coked out and drunk and then let's go have sex. So I was just in my buddy's truck. I think it was with Jimmy. I was with him. And I was like all nervous. And he's like, so who are you seeing tonight? I'm like, oh, this girl, blah, blah. And I'm like, he's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I was just like, fuck, dude, how do you have sober sex? I'm like, you know what I mean? I was like, I haven't had sober sex in like 8 fucking years, dude. How am I going to do this? Like, is it the same? Like, do I do the same thing? You know what I mean? Like, I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. Like, I remember I was at the Moon Room, and God bless her, Tracy, the owner of the Moon Room.
That is the best place ever.
Yeah, and Tracy, the owner, Tracy, she's an amazing lady. Like she helped me out she was actually the first person I went to when my brother transitioned and took his life. I got the notification when I was driving. I drove right to the Moon Room and just she sat with me. She's an amazing lady. I always would bring girls to the Moon Room. That was my go-to. like so many times like Tracy would screw their names up and stuff like that and basically get me roasted half the time, right? Like, but I remember Tracy making a comment too, like, congratulations and all this. And she's like, you look really stressed. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to have sex after this or not. I don't know how this works. But like, did you have that? Did you have that at all? Like fearfulness, or like, did that ever come about?
Oh yeah. I was terrified.
Yeah.
Like the first time I was sitting there, I'm like, how is this supposed to work? Like, I'm not used to this. I've been spending like 10 years of doing it one way. And now like I was terrified. Like I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know if I was gonna like it. I didn't know what was like, you know, how I was gonna feel about it. Like I chickened out like 4 or 5 times before I actually like jumped the gun.
I think I probably did too.
This poor man, this poor man. I made him jump through hoops, and I'm just like, nope, not ready. And like,
not tonight.
Like,
no. Yeah. Maybe next time.
Yeah. Like,
maybe next time. But you know what? When I finally like jumped the gun, I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. But I also like
it's kind of like
I had a problem with that back in the I had a problem with it. I guess you could say like sexual relationships, like and relationships in general. I had horrible issues with that in the past. So like now, and like I touch more on it a little bit, like for emotionally wise, it's more important for me than it is physically. But I touched more on that in the podcast that I did in like relationships and recovery. And I didn't listen to my sponsor in the beginning. I shouldn't have dated within my first year. That didn't happen. I dated a couple of people. Obviously, it didn't turn out well. And then I was with someone for about 2 years, and that relationship was horrible. And like I recently, almost a year ago now, crazy, got out of that relationship. And, but yeah, like at first it was definitely terrifying. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I literally felt like I was a little kid again. Being like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was like learning how to ride a bike again.
I'm like completely beat red. I'm like,
is this okay? Does that feel right? Is
that right? Am I doing this right? Like, is this good?
No, it was an experience anyway. I mean, I'm in a relationship now. My lady lives out of the country, but I couldn't be happier with what I have with her now. And it's funny because like when I went sober, I had just little stints of relationships, nothing serious. This is actually working out well. And it's like, sex is pretty amazing sober. I learned again. It's actually pretty cool. Like I enjoy it. Yay. But that was definitely an experience. But like before we I know like we gotta get going, but I was gonna say when it comes to this is obviously more for Michelle or myself, I guess. I mean even Jordan, you could relate to it too. But like, do you consider is an addict ever recovered?
I know that I am forever going to be an alcoholic.
Okay.
Whether I'm a day sober or a year sober or 3 years or 10 years or 20 years, I am forever going to be an alcoholic, because if I go back to drinking, it's going to end up in the same place. Yeah. So I know for myself that yes, I'm an addict, and yes, I'm an alcoholic, and I will be forever. But there is a point in recovery where you can say that you are recovered. Yeah. But at the same time, for me, that's always just one drink away.
Yeah.
So if I'm not working on recovery, I'm working on relapse. Yeah. So that's how I look at it. If I'm not focused on my recovery and my program, for me, it's life or death. Mm-hmm. Because I'm either going to die physically, emotionally, spiritually, like whatever it is. If I drink again, I'm going to die in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So I am always going to be an alcoholic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I've always sat back and said, like, because it was only a 4 or 5 year period of my life that I was that bad. When I say that bad, I was a degenerate, and you know what I mean? Like there was no escaping that. I was a degenerate. Like I lived off it. So I've always sat back and said, like, I didn't have a problem with alcohol ever. until I started doing coke. And like I said, those two are like a Twix chocolate bar. They're great together. So it's like it made a problem for both. I couldn't have one without the other. So I've always sat back and I wondered to myself, like, is there a point in my life where I might be able to have a drink again? And can I be happy and be able to have that one drink and blah, 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 without having that urge to go have a snot, will it bring back that old itch in me to want to have cocaine? You know what I mean? Will it do that to me? And the more and more I think about it, the more and more my sobriety continues. Is it worth finding out if I have that itch?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've pretty much cut off every single tie I ever had to being able to even go out and purchase anything like that now. I've eliminated that completely from my life, but you can always find it. It's always out there. So it's always like that's been my thing. Is it worth risking getting that itch? And the more, like I said, the more my sobriety continues, the more I'm pretty much at a 99% never going to touch anything again. Smoke weed, that'll happen probably. But like other than that, because weed never led me to anything in my life. I actually had stopped smoking weed for like 8 years almost prior to starting doing cocaine. You know what I mean? So I know that's not an issue if I was to start doing that again, but
most of the time it leads you to the fridge.
That, yes, and Loblaws at 3 a.m. with all the college kids in the chip aisle staring at which one I should get. There's like 20 of you at College Park, College Square, just like Walking Dead in the chip aisle. But like, I think I've always wondered that question, like, are you ever a recovered addict? And I don't know, your explanation is pretty bang on. That was really well said. If I was to look at myself just as an independent person, I don't know. It's funny that because it's almost what I know if I had that sip and not urge for the cocaine. Then I could say.
How long will you be able to keep that at bay?
No, and I agree with you 100%. And it's not worth the risk either. I don't ever, like I have nightmares also of being. I'm at parties all the time in dreams. Yeah.
Same night terrors about drinking, car accidents, like little things like that. They come up in your sobriety because your subconscious is trying to deal with these things.
Yeah.
Because they have never really been addressed. They've been masked or suppressed by a substance.
Yeah.
So then they come up constantly when your subconscious is trying to help you work through it and handle it. But it's still also like that mental block of yourself being like, I'm not ready to deal with this yet.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's like I'll wake up, like you'll have those dreams where I'm at a party and it's like almost the same thing every time. It's like either Coke or booze. Hey, Cardi, you've been sober for so long. Here, this won't fuck you up. Or have this one beer. You've been sober for so long, And in my dream, I'll usually wake up before it enters the system, or I have done it and I'm panicking after. In my dream, I'll have my anxiety attack in my dream, but then I wake up covered in sweat, just kind of like I wake up from a lot of shit in my sleep, but I wake up and I'm just like, I'm not at the club. Okay, this is good. This is good. I'm not at the club. Or wait, did I just wake up from being at the club? Fuck, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know, but like I've never. Those dreams come often. Like and you wake up sweating. Like it's. But like you said, it's a sign. It's a sign for sure. So
I've had drinking dreams since like the first day that I got sober, and like sometimes they're more prominent than others. I'm like. I've woken up and I've been like, did I just fucking drink? Like, you really feel like you did it. And like, I almost feel like hungover, but then I really think about it and I'm like, no, I didn't. It was just a dream. It's okay, Michelle. Yeah. But like, it's not fun. It's not fun.
No,
not at all.
I get it. I have them, at least I probably have that once every 2 weeks. I'll guarantee that dream for sure. That always happens. But anyway, that was awesome. I enjoyed that. That was a good chat. I mean, if you have anything else you'd like to add more or less on your journey or any advice for people
my only advice is don't let anybody else tell you any differently, but you're stronger if you ask for help.
Yeah. And I agree 100%. That's
because a lot of people think and they'll look at you and they'll just be like, oh, well, like, you're weak for asking for help. You're weak for asking for support or like, putting in the time and the effort to get yourself in check and your feet underneath you. it's actually you are being the stronger person. I was stronger of a person to go and admit that I'm an alcoholic and that I couldn't do it by myself and I needed the help. I see a therapist every 2 weeks. I am on medication. I'm doing everything that I possibly can to be the best version of me I can be, but that did come with admitting that I was not okay.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to reach out and don't be afraid to talk to people like myself or either of you. If you connect with any of us, like reach out. I love hearing from people. I love chatting with people about things. And I'd rather you call me or message me and we talk for 3 hours than you do something that you're going to regret.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's like a lot of people will say they aren't ready to do, like I always say, talking to me is like amazing therapy. Not everybody's ready to talk openly, but find that person you can talk to.
Yeah.
And that one
exactly.
independent. You don't have to talk.
And there's lots of us out here. There's lots of us out here. I swear.
I get lots of messages on my messenger. I get some pretty intense messages on my messenger, and I have no issues with that as long as you all know I'm not a doctor or a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist, because I still see those people. So I'm definitely not that, but I'm always there to, like yourself or Jordan, you're always there to give how you've helped yourself.
Yeah.
So
it's just advice that stuff that we've gone through, the stuff that we pick up and the stuff that we learn. Like a jack of all trades is kind of what I look at. Yeah. It's kind of what I look at. Like there's not one way to heal everybody. There's millions of ways to heal everybody. Like everybody has a different way to heal them. So if you can master each different one and you can find different ways to actually help you cope with whatever you're dealing with or whatever you're going through, then nothing's too stupid, nothing's too small. If it's playing a board game, if it's listening to the same song 1,000 times in a day, if it's drawing, if it's just being around friends or family, yourself, for a walk. Like
I go for drives all the time. I'll be doing that after this. So it's, whatever works for you. It's just maybe somebody will be out like on this channel, on this, on this YouTube channel. Maybe somebody will find some advice through anything here that'll help them progress, right? So it's always animals. Get you an animal.
Get you an animal.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised both of mine didn't jump up here after. I think
they're pretty good this time.
Yeah, they did great.
4 or 5 times.
They're learning. But anyway, all right. Well, that was awesome, guys. I appreciate you both coming on here.
Thanks for having us.
Again, I mean, if anyone wanted to reach out to me, you can get me at Instagram at Conkuer_clothing or at Gingy Beast, GINGYBEAST on Instagram if you want to message me there, or on Facebook Messenger is Geoff Archie. I mean, Michelle, if you're open to anything, if you want to state your social media.
Yeah, I don't know mine off by heart. Give me 1 second here. My Instagram is x.MichelleNicole. And on Facebook, it's Michelle Nicole Boutet. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, feel free. I'm always willing and always able to chat. Yeah. I think that those are my social media platforms. Instagram and Facebook. That's about
pretty much
it.
all. I got Twitter for Conkuer.
That's all I have to do.
All right. Well, cool.
King, and I'm at Jordan C. King _. And if you want to message me.
There you go. I mean, we're all open to giving our experiences and what worked for us. So you never know if it could work for anybody out there, anyone who's listening. And again,
and if you're interested in learning about something or just want to know more about whatever it was that we chatted about, like, there's no harm in sending a message.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
I get a lot. It's amazing. I get a lot from the States. It's still crazy. A lot of messages from the States. Which is, I'm happy about it for sure, because it means it's just getting out there. So that's great. I appreciate it.
Getting everywhere.
Yeah. So once again, everybody, it'd be really appreciated if you could like or subscribe. I know this is a long video, but I think it was pretty interesting. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the company and everyone who participated. So hopefully somebody finds some help or goodness out of this to help them progress through their journeys. Once again, also check the website, www.conkuerclothing.com, Conkuer Clothing. And yeah, once again, we try to make donations to mental health facilities through purchases of clothing and my public speaking. And if not, like I always say, please go to the Instagram. Anything you do through Conkuer helps mental health. So repost, post, like, comment, whatever. Anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys. I'd like to do this again. I think I'm getting the hang of it. I think I'm learning how to do this. So I would love to do this again and maybe I know another girl who's interested in doing it too, who's got her first year of sobriety is coming up. So she would love to be interested. I was thinking of approaching her about that. And there's, I mean, mental health covers everything. So there's a million other topics. I mean, eating disorders, anything. So hopefully we'll find more people interested in talking and sharing their story and contributing like this. So once again, I appreciate it, guys. And I'll say peace out for Gingy Beast. If you guys want to say goodbye, that'd be great.
Bye.
Okay, take care, everybody. And hopefully I learn how to post this in a really quick manner.
You got this. You got this.
Take care, everybody.
I'm faith in you. I'm faith in you.
My sausage fingers really fuck shit up. Hey, take care, people.